Good day, everybody. I hope that you're well and also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 6 English lesson on sentences, fragments, and run ons. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of English language arts. We're doing grade 6. And then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of sentences, fragments, and run-ons. All right. All right. So when it comes to sentences, fragments, and run-ons, right? Before we even go to what a sentence is, what a fragment is, and what a run-on is, when you write, for example, either an essay, you write, whether you even write a letter, right? There is basically your basic ways in which you must write, let's say, a sentence, right? And let's say if you either I won't say if you won't follow that, and then the sentence structure is not going to be the same or it's not going to be right. But when it comes to writing, there's different things that we specifically look at. We look at how you write a sentence, the different types of sentences, right? And now we're going to find out what is basically your typical sentence and what we call a sentence fragment, and also what we call a run on sentence. All right. So now we said we are doing our chapter is sentences, fragments, and run ons. We are doing the subject of English language arts, grade 6. And then the lessons that we are going to be focusing on under the chapter of sentences, fragments, and run ons. And the first lesson is going to be easy to complete sentence or fragment. And is it a complete sentence or a run on? And that is what we are going to, that is going to be our lesson for today. Is it a sentence or a fragment? Or is it a sentence or a run on? Because we need to know the difference between that, especially when you're either writing sentences or writing your tasks or literally anything that you're going to be writing. All right. So when it comes to a sentence, right? A sentence, we would say, is a group of words that forms a complete thought, right? So a sentence is a group of words that forms a complete thought, right? That is a sentence. We have a basic sentence. It basically it forms your complete thought. And when you form a complete thought and then a sentence, a completed sentence, right, has both. And when we say both, we bring emphasis on both. It has both a subject and it has a verb. It has a person or thing that is doing the action and the action that is being done either by the person or the thing. That is a sentence. It is a completed sentence, and this specific sentence it expresses a complete thought, right? So that is what a sentence is. If we look at an example of a sentence, right, that expresses a complete thought, and then we're going to look at the first sentence or the example sentence. That means my friends walk along the path. So my friends walk along the path. And if we were to identify the subject within the sentence, the subject is either the person or thing that is doing the action, and then we can either say it is friends or we can say my friends is the subject. And the action that is being done within the sentence, we can say it is either walk or we can say walk along the path. That is the action that is being done within that sentence. All right. Now we're going on to a sentence fragment. Remember, firstly, a sentence, a completed sentence, it expresses a complete thought, and a completed sentence has a subject and it has a verb. It tells us who or what is doing the action, and it is telling us the action that someone or something is doing. That is a complete sentence, which is a complete thought that is being expressed. Now, if we look at what a sentence fragment is, or a fragment, And a fragment is, or sentence fragment, right? It is a group of words. It does not express a complete thought. Remember, we said a sentence expresses a complete thought, and if it expresses a complete thought, then it has both subjects and a both subject and it has a verb, right? But now a sentence fragment, it doesn't express a complete thought. It does not express a complete thought. Meaning, with a sentence fragment, it's either missing a subject, meaning it does not have a subject, or it is missing a verb, it does not have a verb, or it's missing a helping verb. But there's something within that sentence that is missing, and that means that that sentence cannot be completed without you adding that specific word. And if we look at an example, right, of a sentence fragment, we're going to show an example where it is missing a a subject, where it's missing a verb, as well as where it is missing a helping verb. All right. And now, if we look at the example, right, it says knows the answer. If you look at that sentence, it says knows the answer. What do you think is missing within that sentence? It says knows the answer. What do you think is missing within that sentence? And if we look at that sentence, it says knows the answer, right? That sentence alone does not sound like it is a completed sentence, because now the question is who knows the answer, right? Which means that this is missing a subject. It's missing a subject because now the question is who knows the answer. There is no person, there's no thing that is basically telling us, or we don't have an idea, we don't have an idea of who is missing or who knows the answer, right? So which means that this is missing a subject. There is no subject, no person or no thing that knows the answer, which means that that is a sentence fragment. It is not a complete sentence, or it's not a complete thought. The next one says the bright red car. The bright red car. What do you think is missing within that sentence? The bright red car. What do you think is missing? The bright red car. And if we were to identify what's missing within that sentence, right? Because that already sounds like there is something missing without us even knowing that there's something missing. And then we can say something that is missing within that sentence, right, is the verb. Because now the question is, what is this bright red car doing? So there's no verb. So now the question is, what is the bright red car doing? Bright red car, it basically just describes the car. It's a car, it's a noun. Bright and red, it tells us basically, it describes, it's an adjective that describes the car. But it is missing a verb. And that is why that sentence, the bright red car, is a sentence fragment. It does not express a complete thought. It is missing a verb. There is no verb, there is no action. It does not tell us what the car is doing. It's not telling us the car is driving off, the car is speeding, the car is rolling, nothing. And then the next one says, we skiing next week. We skiing next week. If you look at that sentence, what do you think is missing within that sentence? We skiing next week. And if we look at what's missing within that sentence, right? We skiing next week. Then we can say the helping verb is missing within that sentence. Because you can't just say we skiing. It's either we are skiing, we will be skiing, we, right? You need to basically show the helping verb that is missing within that sentence. Yes, so we are skiing, right? Or we will be skiing or something, but we are skiing, right? Will be or something. But there needs to be a helping verb because you can't just say we skiing, right? So well done. Are is a is missing over there because our helping verb is missing within that sentence. So if we look once again at these words, right? These sentences. These sentences over here are sentence fragments. They are either missing a subject that tells us who is doing the action, or they're missing a verb that's telling us what the person or thing is doing, or it's missing a helping verb, right? Within that sentences. So which means that when it comes to a sentence fragment, it does not express a complete thought and it's missing either a subject, a verb, or a helping verb. And we said a sentence is a group of words. It forms a complete thought. A sentence forms a complete thought because it has both a subject and it has a verb that completes that sentence. Right? Now we have a run on sentence. Run on sentence. And a run-on sentence, right? It is made up of two independent clauses. Remember, an independent clause is basically almost like a sentence that can stand on its own, right? Because it has a verb and it has a subject. But now a run-on sentence, it is made up of two independent clauses that is joined, but it has no end punctuation, or it is just joined with a comma, right? That is a run-on sentence. It is made up of two independent clauses that is joined with no punctuation, or it is joined with a comma. So we're going to look at examples now of run-on sentences, and we're also going to look at a way in which we can fix a run-on sentence, right? So we're going to look at an example of a run-on sentence, and we are going to fix a run-on sentence. All right, so if we look at the first example of a run-on sentence, right? Then we can say the example of a run-on sentence is I knocked on the door. It opened. I knocked on the door. It opened. That is a run on sentence. If you look at that run on sentence, do you think that sentence is complete? Do you think that sentence is correct? I knocked on the door. It opened. Right? And remember, we said a run on sentence is made up of two independent clauses and that is joined by either no end punctuation or it is just basically joined with a comma. If we look at the next sentence is it started raining. There's our comma. We ran inside. It started raining. We ran inside. And if we look at that run on sentence has a comma. So that one is joined with a comma. And now we're not going to try and fix our run on sentences. All right. Remember, a complete sentence has a subject and it has a verb, right? So if we look at these two sentences, I knocked on the door, it opened, it started raining, we ran inside. We're going to fix that two sentences. And the first way we can fix that sentence is by separating it into two sentences. We then add the end punctuation, and end punctuation is either a period, it's either an exclamation point, or it is a question mark, right? So we're going to add the end punctuation after the first sentence, and then we're going to capitalize the second sentence, right? And then, of course, end it off also with the end punctuation. Because remember, a sentence starts with a capital letter. So the first sentence, right? I knocked on the door. It opened. We are going to now separate these two sentences by saying I knocked on the door, because I is the subject, knocked is the verb. It opened. What opened? The door they actually did opened, which means that we now need to write these two clauses basically as two separate sentences on its own. And we're going to write it like this: capital letter I knocked on the door, period. Now we're starting our second sentence. Capital letter it opened. And there we have our two sentences. I knocked on the door, it opened. The same with the next one. We are going to separate that too. By that comma is now going to turn into a period, and the W for we is going to start with a capital letter, meaning it started raining, we ran inside. That is how we can fix a sentence, by separating it into two sentences and then by adding the end punctuation to show that that two sentences or that two clauses is on its own. Another way we can fix a run-on sentence is by rewriting it as a compound sentence. And remember, a compound sentence, it is made up of two clauses that is joined together by a comma, as well as a coordinating conjunction. And a coordinating conjunction are words like and, but, or, so. So, which means that we're going to use that two sentences, right? The two clauses. We're going to join it together by using a comma as well as a conjunction, and then it's going to be a compound sentence. For example, I knocked on the door, comma, and there's our conjunction. It opened. This is now a compound sentence. The same with the second one. It started raining, comma, so we ran inside. There we also have our second sentence, right? All right, guys, do we so far understand what a sentence fragment is as well as a run-on sentence before I continue, before we go to aplusstudents.ca? Are we still okay with the pace in which I am talking? Am I not talking too fast? All right. Okay, so now let's go to aplusstudents.ca. And we are going to say, is the complete sentence or fragment? And we're going to say, is it a complete sentence or a run-on? So we're just going to focus on these two sentences, and then these two lessons, and then when we do our next session, and then we're going to just wrap it up. All right. All right, and remember, just to go over it again before we go and do our test, right? We said that a sentence is a group of words that forms. All right, thank you guys. All right, so we said a sentence is a group of words that forms a complete thought. And remember, when it comes to a completed sentence, right? A complete sentence has both subject as well as a verb. And remember, the emphasis is on both, meaning it needs to have both subject as well as a verb, because now it's telling me that this person or thing is doing something, right? If it's not telling us the action that is being done, then it's not a completed sentence. Or if it's not telling us who or what is doing the action, then it is not a completed sentence. A complete sentence or complete thought needs to have both action, which is the verb, as well as a subject, which is the person or thing that is doing the action, right? And then we said a sentence fragment, it is a group of words, but it does not express a complete thought because it's either missing a subject, meaning it does not have a person or a thing that is doing the action. It's got missing a verb. It does not show the action that the thing or person is doing, and it doesn't have a helping verb. That sentence is just not completed. It does not make sense, right? All right, so now let's go to our test where we are going to say, is it a sentence or is it a fragment? All right, so which is a complete sentence? We are now going to identify a complete sentence within this test. Is it option one? Greg texted me the page number for the homework assignment. Or option two, never spoke of Ava's secret to anyone except for her. So Greg texted me the page numbers for the homework assignment. Or option two, never spoke of Ava's secret to anyone except for her. Which one is a complete sentence? Option one or option two? All right, and if we were to select our complete sentence, right? Then we will say option one is a complete sentence. Yes, well done. Option one is correct. We need to say which one is a complete sentence. Is it option one, which is at dawn, the sailors hoisted the cargo onto the ship? So at dawn, the sailors hoisted the cargo onto the ship. Or option two, Edgar performing on stage for the thrill of the audience's cheers and applause. At dawn, the sailors hoisted the cargo onto the ship. Or option two, Edgar performing on stage for the thrill of the audience's cheers and applause. If you want to know the meaning of the word hoisted, hoisted is when they are, it's like they're raising, is it that sails? When they pull that ropes to raise the sails of, that's on the ship. And if we were to choose the correct option, all right, then we will choose actually option one, right? Because remember, hoisted is when you are pulling those or raising you're pulling the ropes and the pulleys and you're raising almost like that, the sails of the ship, right? Because now it means that the sailors, which is the subject, and then hoisted is the verb, is the action that the sailors did, right? So option one was correct. All right, let's look at the next one. It says, which is a sentence fragment? We need to say which is a sentence fragment, meaning it does not, it does not express a complete thought, meaning it's either missing a verb or it's missing a subject or it is missing a helping verb. So we need to choose the correct one. So is it option one, layers and layers of cheese, lettuce, tomatoes, and onions? Or option two, the Sullivans make homemade apple cider with their cider press. All right, and if we are going to select the correct answer, then yes, option one is correct. Well done. Option one is correct. All right, the next one says, which is a sentence fragment? It says, a long pleated skirt with a floral print, or Kathleen replaced the broken fuse in the fuse box. Kathleen replaced the broken fuse in the fuse box, or a long pleated skirt with a floral print. We need to choose the correct answer, a sentence fragment. All right, and if we were to select our correct answer, then yes, we will say option one, a long pleated skirt with floral print is our answer. Well done. All right, now we're going to the next one. It says, is it a complete sentence or is it a run on? And we remember we said a run on is two clauses, independent clauses, that is either joined by a either a comma or no punctuation, no in punctuation. Pardon. Right? So now we're going to our test where we are going to say, is it a sentence or is it a run on? All right, it says, which is a run on sentence? Our dog, Coco, watches the mail carrier warily. She sometimes growls at him. Or option two, the veins in our body return blood to the heart. We need to select the correct option. That's a sentence fragment. All right, and if we select the correct answer, then yes, we will say our run on sentence, yes, is option one, which is our dog Coco watches the carrier wearily. She sometimes growls at him. That is a run on sentence. All right, let's do the last one. It says vultures eat the remains of dead animals. We need to say which is a run-on sentence. Or my cat pounced on the toy mouse. She probably thought it was a real meal. It was real. Sorry, I don't know where it comes meal in. Vultures eat the remains of dead animals, or my cat pounced on the toy mouse. She probably thought it was real. We need to say which one is a run on sentence. All right, and if we were to say which one is the correct answer, then we will say a run on sentence is option two. My cat pounced on the toy mouse. She probably thought it was real. So well done. All right, so this is now the end of our lesson. We went over what is a sentence, and we said a sentence expresses a complete thought and it has both subject and a verb. Then we have a fragment which does not express a complete thought. It is either missing a verb, subject, or a helping verb. And a run on sentence is two independent clauses that is either joined by and no in punctuation or by a comma. All right, so this is the end of our lesson. Thank you very much, grade sixes, for joining our class today. I really hope that you do have a better understanding of what sentences, fragments, and run ons are. So, till next time, you should have a good day further. Goodbye.